Hi, this is Take the Mic with Felix. On today's video, I'll be talking about the impact of followership on leadership behavior. Before we get into it, I want you to smash that subscribe button, like, and share. The first thing I would like to talk about here right now is that usually when you pick up books on leadership, you see so much written on leadership, so much. All the time, researchers tend to give more focus to leadership, while followership is overlooked and ignored. Because if you look at the quantum of literature that is out there on leadership, and you check it with the quantum of leadership that is there on followership, you would find that there's just the one for leadership is overwhelming and very little for followership. Meanwhile, followership and leadership are as important as each other. Well, there are a few things, there are a few books there on followership. But when you compare it to the amount of books and literature that is available on leadership, you start wondering, so what's the role of followership? Now, this environment, this situation creates a feeling that leaders are the most important in organizations because followers are being overlooked. On the other hand, followers also have the same importance with leaders because without the followers, there will be no leaders. And so we know that followers can play as important a role in the leadership equation just like the leaders, because what they do shapes the leader's behavior. Followers, through their active engagement, and as a result of their independent critical thinking, can bring change in the organization as well as to the behavior of their leaders. There is significant relationship found between followership and leadership. Now, it doesn't matter the leadership styles. There is that profound impact that takes place. Moreover, followership significantly predicts leadership behavior. Because if you are leading somebody, a lot of times you are going to have to tailor your leadership to the person who is following. Because if, for instance, you are walking faster than the person you are leading, it's going to get to a point you lose them and then you are alone. Followership and leadership are active functions, and people play these functions at diverse times at their workplace. You can find somebody right now, he's a leader, next one is a follower, and things keep evolving, especially in an organizational setup. Let me give you an example. Somebody can be a leader of a unit and probably has 5 people with him, and then at the directorate level, this person who was head of unit is now a follower. So in one breath, at the unit level, this person is a leader. At the directorate level, this person is a follower. So it depends on what you are doing. That determines what you are, whether you are the follower or whether you are the leader. Therefore, followers can play a significant role in the organizations if their managers allow them to participate in decision making. The mistake some leaders make is to sit down, make the decisions, and just top-down information. Just say, this is what I want you to do, bang, 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 and they move on. Those kind of leaders forget that they do not have a monopoly of ideas. And in the diversity, or in the, actually, the Bible puts it this way: in the multitude of counsel, there's safety. That's what the Bible says. But if we look at it, where there is diversity, creativity tends to thrive. But when a leader thinks he has all the ideas, what happens is that creativity is stifled. So this implies that followers have an impact on the behavior of their management. They can influence the decisions made by management. Any follower that is actively engaged will always influence the decisions and sometimes the behavior of management. Positive criticism is good for an organization. And where will that come from? It will come from followers. Now, when there's positive criticism, it brings effectiveness and makes the organization effective and efficient. Leadership effectiveness are determined by three things: the aims, the organization itself, and the followers. When followers engage with their leaders, they tend to be very effective. And I can give you an example. I once gave somebody an assignment in the office and I gave him a timeline to report back. That assignment required that person to be outside the office, collate data, come back, do his analysis, and then submit a report. And he came back to me and said, "Sir, would you consider changing the timeline of this assignment?" And I said, "Why?" He said, there's a plan for a protest in the city. And I go, "Oh, yes, I've completely forgotten about that." So we sat down and agreed together on how and when this should be done. We basically agreed, if the protest is going to hold, just take action and do something else. If it's not going to hold and we are sure it won't, then you can keep the timeline. So it was easy to be able to listen to somebody I've given an assignment. Now, some of the leaders would have said, "I don't care. I've given you the assignment. I've given you the timeline. I expect the report on my table on so day." Now, those kind of relationship between leader and followers can bring frustration to the follower. And ultimately, if it brings frustration, the follower is going to fail. And if the follower fails, it's actually the leader that has failed. The other thing is that followers are important members in the leadership equation. Like I said earlier in one of our videos, you cannot have a leader without a follower, because that person is not what are you leading if nobody is following? Who are you leading? So that tells you that the followership is so critical to the success of the leader, and the followership impacts a lot on the behavior of leaders. And I'll give you an example. A research that was carried out in Pakistan in 2023 by a researcher by the name of Qureshi found out that a 1% change in leadership could bring a 57% change in the behavior of the leader. That tells you that that's a lot of impact on leadership. So it is so important that followers are given the same or accorded the same level of importance as leaders. Now, followership gives legitimacy to leadership. That is something I've said so much in some of the videos, because without followers, there's no leader. If no one is following, then there's no leading. And so it is important. We know that followership is so important to the success of leadership. So in summary, leaders rely on followership to have their assignments carried out. Followership is critical to the success of leadership, and we have seen that just a 1% shift in followership can lead to a 57% change in leadership behavior. So that tells you that followership is so important. So please don't forget to smash that button, the subscribe button. Remember to share. Remember to send in questions if you have any, and we'll be glad to answer them in subsequent videos. Don't forget, this is Take the Mic with Felix.